right, I think that I am live now. Looks like it's working. We'll see if anybody joins. I know it's kind of a weird time to go live, but my workbench and my work area is a bomb blast, and it really, really needs to be cleaned up. So today, I'm gonna start cleaning this stuff up, organize some of the parts and everything. I'm still waiting on so much stuff. So I can't really do anything on the car, but I can get things organized in here. So let's see if I can find a better place for this camera to go. Matt McCabe, hello. William, hello. Moving this tripod here. So hopefully I can see this while I'm cleaning up. Is that gonna work? Finally got the time to watch the live stream. I like to hear that. Yeah, so I know most of the time when I'm doing these live streams, it's like middle of the day on the week, but got stuff to do in here, so figure why not? Why not put something together? While I'm cleaning stuff up and while I'm organizing, if you guys have questions for go for it. You can ask me stuff not about the mini too. Matt McCabe says, I have a Mark 1 and am currently restoring it. You're only 17 and a tight budget. Any suggestions? So I would say that a tight budget is totally doable with these minis. The nice thing is that majority of the parts in these cars are really inexpensive. I mean, unless you're getting like the top of the line stuff. When I bought this car, I was I guess, freshman in college. Didn't have money to do basically anything to this car, so most of my time was trying to fix things on a budget, and I think that the one thing that I will recommend is take your time, and if you have to do something, even if it's expensive, save your money and get it done right. There's a lot of ways you can do like budget stuff. You can do a budget paint job, you can do a budget weld job, and if you just span the project a little bit longer, save up a little bit more money, it's totally worth it to spend it on things like that. Other parts, it's kind of less expensive parts in the car in order to get the most out of it. So, hope that helps answer that question. All right. Might as well just dive right into it. Got some cool stuff to show you guys too. I've got a lot of parts coming in right now so that I can continue everything, but I can't right now because two things I'm waiting for that are just holding it up. William says, also, do you think a Mini would be a great first car for someone in the US? I don't know. I've got kind of mixed emotions about that. On one hand, the Mini is a great first car because it's super cheap. Things to break on it are simple, so you can fix it yourself. But at the same time, especially in the US, I would not say this for sure in other countries, especially in Europe. You can deal with a smaller car. In the US, things are so far apart, and these cars are not really made for the highway. So you run into that kind of frustration frequently when driving the cars in the United States. Matt says, finding parts is hard. Any good parts websites you could recommend? Well, if you're North America, my parts sponsor, 7 Mini Parts, I have to say them first because they're awesome. But since you aren't, try to think. I'm pretty sure Mini Spares ships to New Zealand. I'm sure there's some Australian Mini Parts places that will, sell stuff and ship it there, because you guys are pretty close. But, I'm not really sure. I think mini spares supplies a large portion of the world with their mini parts, thinking about it. Like sometimes even the mini parts I get from 7 Mini have mini spares branding on them because they buy them wholesale from them. They just need to get a whole new socket set. I've got so many mismatched and missing parts, it's driving me crazy. Also, I'm gonna turn on my fan real quick. Tell me if this is like super, super loud. Is that like crazy loud? Is that overwhelming? Because it's really hot here in the United States right now. Well, specifically in Charlotte, it's really hot. William says, for your second Mini, have you considered to buy one of the Cooper cars or an Aussie? I would love to buy an Australian Mini, specifically a Mark I Australian Mini, because their doors have the roll-down window, which the British and Canadian ones don't have. They just have the slider windows. And in the United States, in Charlotte, it's really hot in the summer, so that was nice. But otherwise, I'm not really picky when it comes to minis. I'm hoping one day I can get a second one. We'll see. Got a space for a second one too. Mark, welcome, welcome. Of course, Team Slaphead. I'm actually surprised. Let's see, what time is it? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's like midnight there, isn't it? Y'all stay up way later than me. 10 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, you know, that bed is looking real comfortable right about now. I think that I might move over there. Well, I'm sorry you can't sleep, but I'm glad that you decided to join the stream. FYI, if anyone owns a tool company and wants to sponsor the channel, I would be happy to take a free set of sockets from you. Just saying. Just a friendly offer from someone who needs a new set of sockets. Eight people. Welcome. Whoever is joining. Oh, back down to 7. So what other questions do you guys have? You got me here. Probably going to be here for a little bit. Oh, Matt says, the hydroelastic suspension on my Mini needs changing, but I need a tool to empty and refill the reservoirs. A Mini shop in New Zealand would rent me with the tool, but it's going to cost €80 to rent for the tornadoes. I never really worked with the hydroelastic suspension myself. I have a friend here who's had to do some work with it, and for the most part, he sent it off to do the majority of the work, but that to seal up everything. The main thing is pretty sure, and if I remember correctly, he rented a tool or bought a tool in order to do it. So I think that it's probably necessary. But at the same time, are you wanting to keep the hydroelastic suspension to like keep it stock and original? I ask because the hydroelastic suspension is really hard to find parts for, and if it's going to be like a daily driver or something you run regularly, it's less reliable than a dry suspension. But it's also arguably more comfortable. Why do I have so many mini parts? I don't. Mark says, big load off my mind now that Tom got the Mini started. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be moving out of the garage space soon, right? So, going to have a garage back, or at least a driveway back. I'm sure you're looking forward to that. William says, speaking of hydroelastic, any manuals ever touch on it? I am sure there is one that did. Let me look at my my early Haynes manual. I am not sure if that even has anything about hydroelastic in it, but we will find out. It's super unbound. I was going to do some stuff with it, but never got into it. Matt says, all right, so Dean says not to change the hydro. There you go. There's some feedback for you on whether or not you should do that. How much would you estimate your Mini to be worth? If I took like a while in the US and in the current market with the Mark 1s, I would probably guess maybe like 15 to 20,000 bucks. There's some pretty crazy sales that came on recently, but I don't know if mine would be that way because it's kind of not super original. Let's see here. Suspension and steering is on page 220. William says the Cooper cars are crazy. They can go for 80,000 pounds at a time, but most are in the 30,000 pound range. That's quite a bit of money. I mean, 30,000 pounds in US dollars is almost 50,000 US dollars, if my math is right. And it's hard for me to imagine someone buying a Mini for that much here. So, Mark says, are you coming over to the main Mini show in 2019 in our country? I would really like to do that. I'm still kind of planning logistics and whether or not I can make it work with work. And the fact that we're taking an international trip this year is going to be a factor in all of it as well. So, according to this Haynes manual about the hydroelastic suspension, it says, verbatim, the suspension and steering on vehicles equipped with hydroelastic suspension is identical to those with the rubber cone suspension with the following exceptions. And it's got a list of some stuff here about the hoses and the displacers, but overall it looks to be about the same. I don't remember what the question was, though. Matt says, I got my Mark 1 with good panel work and a running engine, plus all the electronics working for 4,000 New Zealand dollars. Yeah, so this pink Haynes has some diagrams for the hydroelastic suspension. So I would wager it has some information for you if you need to do some repairs. Dean says, check Ian Kennedy on Facebook. He sells everything for hydro. That's a good tip. I'd write that down because finding hydro people is hard to find. English. It's tough for me sometimes. You get what I'm trying to say. Hey, Chubby. says, I wonder how long I can get away with watching you live on my phone next to my girlfriend in bed while watching TV. I think you could probably do it for a little while. Just be really, really quiet. Mark, thanks for joining. Have a wonderful evening and good night. Good luck getting some sleep. Dean says, I've driven my car wet every day for 16 years. That's extremely inappropriate. I would like it if you would dial that back on my live stream. Thank you very much. What else you guys got for me today? It's some tools that it's stuff that for kind of like later in the build, you know, the things that I'm waiting for from the machine shop, it's like one part that I can't continue the build until I get it done. William asks if I know anyone who has built a Mini from scratch. I've met anybody who's built a Mini from scratch, aside from, I guess, the Heritage folks who press the body panels and the shells moving forward. Check that out. For my new radiator. My radiator's not new. That's new for my radiator. New leads for the ignition. Random bracket that I don't know if I need. Hey Tony, thanks for joining. Matt, I will tell you something. So I see you asking about the tool. There is a lot to be said for using the right tool for the job. Sometimes if you get the wrong tool or use something that doesn't quite jive to what you need, it ends up doing more harm than good, can damage parts and stuff. So just worth mentioning. You know, you might find something that works great, but that's just my 2 cents. So check this out. I got these NGK spark plugs. There's a little black top on the top. I was super excited because I don't know why, it just seemed really cool that they would have a little black top on the spark plug. And then I get them, I open them up, and they're chrome. They're not actually black on the top. How lame is that? Just unacceptable. Matt says, my steering rod has play. Have you ever replaced the bushings before on a Mark I steering rack? Yes. The bushings on the bushings. I've replaced my steering rack. I've not replaced the bushings on my steering rack. William says, do you think that it's possible to buy and maintain a Mini with a part-time job along with having some time for it with both work and school? I think that just about anything is possible. I would say that with a lower budget, say, and with a part-time job, you know, you've not got a lot of income coming in to put into the car, things are just going to take longer to accomplish. But I think that it's possible. Sorry, I had a part-time job. I worked for a college and didn't make very much money at all. Last noticed when I got this car, the steering rack was like totally toast. It just needed to be replaced, so I bought a new one. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how that proceeds actually. Now, have you guys seen the most recent episode? I got the subframe back put in the car. Well, I pulled the subframe out and then put the subframe back in like the next episode. I was actually pretty surprised that I got that done so quick. I guess it just wasn't that much work that had to be done to it, thinking about it. Matt says it looks awesome. Thank you. It definitely turned out really nice. I can bring you guys back there in a minute and show you a little bit more detail what I got done. Says the paint. Oh. Matt says that the paint kit you got seems to work a treat. Yes, it did. I'm very, very pleased with how that turned out. It just took to that metal really, really well. I'm confident that that's not going to rust again. And if it does, then later on down the road, maybe I'll replace it with a new subframe. I don't know. It's still cool thinking about the fact that that's from remote gearbox to rod change. Do you have to modify the floor in your Mini to fit the rod change remote? I had to do it with mine. I'm just asking. 90% sure I'm going to have to do that. There is obviously the hole there that was from the remote box. Maybe it won't be. Might have to add a bracket. We'll see. It's going to be a process. It's going to be a video, and maybe two. I don't know. That'll be farther down the road, though. I'm not anywhere close to that yet. Unfortunately, I wish I was. Matt says what to do before spraying the 3M Under Protect. What I did with that, let me bring you guys out there. I'll show you some stuff. Oh Lord, it's hot out here. Okay, so what I had to do for the underbody, the undercoating, is I had to like sand it down. I had to get a surface that was prepped for it. Let's bring that up there. And so this obviously is the rear wheel well. My neighbor is mowing the lawn. Sorry if that's really loud. And I took my angle grinder with a wire brush attachment and then sanded the bottom of this thing. It took a long time. It was extremely messy. This is the remnants of what's left that I haven't cleaned up yet, and it's just dust. But it took probably, all said and done, from front to back, it probably took 3 hours. And I looked like I had just come out of like a coal mine. But then I got underneath. Some of it was down to bare metal. Some of it was down to like a strong primered level. And then I just sprayed it up on there. Switch that. There we go. Okay. This way. And yeah. It wasn't too bad though. It just took a lot of time. Come on, tape. Any surface cleaner before applying? No, not really. Mostly just got under there with the hose, washed it down, dried it off really good. You just want a clean surface, not necessarily like a acid dip surface or something like that, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, that would help if you sandblasted the car or something like that beforehand. But I obviously was not going to sandblast my car. So many zip ties. That 3M though, so I've had, when I first had the paint shop, it was actually a guy down kind of in the country near Charlotte, and I had him like do an underbody paint, but used an underbody paint. I think he just used like regular paint because it definitely did not hold up. But I guess that's what I get for not doing the job myself. But anyway, I'm not salty about that at all. Trying to decide what to do with this timing gear. It's cool, and it could like hang up somewhere, but I don't know. It's like it's not usable. It's worn. It's got problems and it's warped. Maybe I can hang it on the wall. Yeah. That's kind of. Who else just joined there? I see the number popped up a little bit. Is everybody there? Back online? Said I lost my connection. Ah, there's everybody. Sorry about that. I guess my internet dropped out there for a second. So I don't know, what was the last thing you guys heard me talking about? Did I... Jonathan says, I have a question, if I may. Exactly what this live stream is about. Q&A. Check that out. So this is the old hose. Check out that new hose. How pretty is that? It's going to look really good when it goes on the car. All right, I've got a clean workbench now. What's left to do here? Jonathan said he has a question, but I don't see any questions popping up. William says, have I considered upgrading to a 1275? William, I have a 1275. I actually have a 1293. Mine's overboard, and the head's ported and everything, so that's already a thing. Jonathan Langley says 1275 smokes after 30 minutes runtime when loaded. Smoke is bluey gray. Sorry, I'm a slow typer. That's totally okay. So it smokes after runtime when loaded. So there's a couple things, something here. So I don't know how familiar you are with cars, so if any of this is remedial, let me know. So there's a few things that I think it could be. There is something called valve guides. So this is your cylinder head here, and these are your valves. And what can happen sometimes is the valves, when opening, are allowing oil to pass through and to the underside into your combustion chamber. So that could be it. You might be getting oil seepage through that. And then that bluish gray color generally means that it's oil that's burning. So that could be seeping by the valves, burning, collecting, things like that. And then the other thing is your head gasket, which is this black one right here. And there could be oil passing through the oil channels and into your cylinder, and then getting burned off that way. And actually, there's one more thing it could be around your pistons. And then the last thing might be these pistons. You have rings on your piston. You can see it kind of bouncing around there. And if they're not tight, if one's broken, oil can pass by the bottom of the piston and up into the chamber. So those are all things you might want to check on. Matt says, any suggestions for removing rust from the tank? There are like treatments to do that. I think the company that I used the paint that I used for the subframe, POR 15, POR 15. I think they might have a gas tank treatment. I've never used it, but it might work pretty well for you. Tony also asked, have you checked the front subframe for any rusted parts so you can just touch up the spots if there is any by chance? So I have gone over some of it. The place where the engine mounts sit on the subframe are rusty. Those are going to get touched up. But otherwise, it's actually in really good shape. I think that oil leaking and things like that on the engine has kind of kept it coated so it can't ever rust. It's kind of the byproduct of owning a British car, I guess. Matt says, what was the 3M spray called? It's pretty simple. It's like, I think it's just called 3M rubberized undercoating. Here we go. So it is, this is probably mirrored for you guys, but it says professional grade rubberized. It's awesome. There's actually a link on my subframe video, one of the two subframe videos, directly to Amazon, so you can make sure to get the right one. Will it go over exhausts and things? I wouldn't use it on exhaust. The exhaust gets really, really hot, especially the closer to the motor you get. So I would avoid putting things like this that could cook off, that would like bake off of the exhaust. Something like a high temp paint, which I have up here too. Something that's high heat, that's rated for like 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This works really well. It's Rust-Oleum. I put this on my headers and it worked pretty well. I haven't had any rust on it, so I guess it worked really well. I was going to show you my exhaust, but I can't remember where I put that. I'm going to have to find that before I put it back together. Jonathan, did you get all your questions answered? I saw that you had some connection problems, and I just want to make sure that you heard everything. Jonathan, it's no problem if it froze. Let me just look at your question again. 1275, smokes after 30 minutes. Okay, yeah. So I suggested a couple things. I'll go over them one more time because I want to make sure that you have some things you can try. So there was either the valve guides are allowing oil to pass down from the top of your head into the combustion chamber and burning. There is the other potential option, which is your piston rings are allowing oil to come up from the bottom of your block and into your combustion chamber and burning, or your head gasket is bad and it's allowing oil to pass across the head into the combustion chamber and burning. So those would be my first three. The easiest ones to work on and check would be your head gasket and the valve guides. Tony says, hey, what's your take on exhaust wrapping hull? So I've got mixed emotions. I like the idea of keeping the heat in the exhaust and not in like the engine bay and not near the intakes. You know, obviously the carburetors sit right above the exhaust. But at the same time, those exhaust wraps almost always trap moisture. So if you do something like that, a stainless steel exhaust would probably be good to have so that it doesn't rust, or painting the exhaust, although I've seen even when they get painted, they still tend to rust. So and it's not like it'll totally fall apart, it just is not something that's gonna prolong the life of your exhaust, I'll put it that way. William says, what type of horn do I use for my car? So I found a compact air horn. It's shaped kind of like a shell, like a seashell that you'd listen to the ocean in, and has a big opening, a small little compressor. It runs off 12 volt, no fancy stuff required. It's about that big, so see it next to my head, it's about that big, excuse me. And it's amazing. It's so loud. I would demo it for you guys, but my battery is totally disconnected. But you'll just have to trust me. It is incredibly loud, strong, very much recommended. And I don't know if I just said it or not. The company that made it is called Stebel. It's Stebel, I think. And it's called a Nautilus. No, I think I'm saying that right. Hey Corey, welcome to the stream. Are you still dealing with a crazy amount of mosquitoes up there, or your coffee grounds keeping them away? William, I'm pretty sure it's Stebel, but I'm not totally certain. Jonathan says, that's fantastic, thank you. I've started with the head gasket using your video as my reference. Oh, well, hopefully that helps you. That's a really good place to start. And then you can also, if you have the head off, Usually a valve job is not crazy expensive. Here I can usually get one done for like 150 bucks at the machine shop. I mean, like top end, sometimes it's a little bit cheaper. And they'll go over, make sure the valve guides are right, put new springs on it if it needs it, and then they'll lap the valves to make sure you get a nice tight seal on those valves. Definitely worth doing if the head is already off. Taken Not Given is asking step to take for starting a car that has sat for a while besides changing fluids. I would probably say check to make sure your battery's good. I I know you said except changing the fluids, but change the fluids. It's a good thing to do. Um, Check your wheel bearings, check the tires, check the suspension, all the nuts and bolts, make sure that everything's tight the way it needs to be. I would refresh the fuel if you can, and then obviously dispose of the fuel the right way. Trying to think what else. And checking the oil and the nuts and bolts is probably the top two for me, making sure that those are solid. Corey says it's hit and miss, big breeze right now, so they aren't too bad. I don't know what the temperature is there for you right now, but where I'm at right now is, when I listened to the radio earlier today, it said it was 95, and that was about an hour ago, and it definitely does not feel any cooler than 95. So Tony Cobain says, help me. Help you do what? All right, I think that's probably clean. One thing that, if someone wants this duplex timing kit, you definitely need a new chain, but it's a 2-tooth timing system, and strongly recommend upgrading to one of these on your car. This is free. I will ship it to anybody. Just email me at classicminidiy@gmail.com. I'll just send it to the first person who sends me an email. Greasy. Hey Adam, welcome to the live stream. I know you love it in the QC. I hope it's not too hot for anybody who's having a wedding this weekend. That would be a challenging wedding if it was hot, wouldn't it? So I have this other radius arm that I gotta take apart so that I can clean it. Is that something you guys might like to see? I can take this part live on the stream here. Greasy. William asked, do you know where I could find possibly authentic radios for the Mini? I don't know that the Mini ever came with a radio from the factory. Maybe one of the ones in the later years in the like 80s and 90s, but I don't remember it ever being a stock thing in the early cars. Maybe somebody who has a little bit more knowledge about the older ones can correct me if I'm wrong. knew they were accessory, and I was wondering if any were floating around anymore. Yeah, if anyone on the live stream knows, got somebody asking. Bastard. It's really stuck in there. Man, I guess I should be thankful for these new springs. They're strong. There we go. There we go. Man, that doesn't want to come out. Corey says, what's your thought on ceramic coatings exhaust headers? I actually think that's a pretty good idea. I have only seen it done a couple of times, just in person, and they've always really stood out. Things seem like they last a lot better when they're ceramic coated. I don't know, I'd probably do it. William asked if I've ever considered racing before. I have. I'd really like to have another Mini to race it because racing a car is extremely hard on the car. So, you know, doing something like that requires a large budget, and I don't have a large budget to spend on this car right now. Thanks, American Student Loans, for that. I do have to say though, I have autocrossed my car, which is like, it's kind of, the wheel bearing, which is pretty cool. That was a lot of fun, autocrossing. That's something that I would probably still do, separate from racing the car. Not very good at it though. Dang, some of this stuff is rough shape. I'm glad I took this apart. This knuckle joint was basically just hanging out. Good Lord. Check this out, you guys. So, that is a really screwed up knuckle joint. So, what it's supposed to look like is this, that cup. That's a little bit different, huh? Robert says, what should I check on clutch or trans when clutch or transmission? When I shift into reverse, there is a grinding noise. So what I would start with is simply just bleeding the slave cylinder on your clutch. A lot of times the slave cylinder, if it's low on fluid or if it has air in there, it'll prevent your clutch from actually engaging completely. And when that happens, it's especially evident in reverse. You'll have that kind of grinding. Aside from that, your clutch might just need to be replaced. I don't know how new it is. But that's a good place to start. Past that, you end up with kind of some more in-depth checks things inside the actual transmission, which obviously require you to pull the motor. Jonathan says, 1992 appears to be the first factory-fitted cassette radio in the Mini. It was the Mini City. Well, there you go, folks. Jonathan, thank you for looking that up. Appreciate that. Corey says, any tips on setting up the reverse light switch on the rod change box? I don't have any direct guidance on that because I've not had a rod change box yet. But I do have the box full of those parts somewhere around here. That is not what I'm looking for. So I am pretty sure. I'm trying to remember where it goes in here, but I can't remember. Might be right here. Yeah, actually, you know what? Anything I tell you at this point probably would be incorrect. So I don't have any info for you on that one. Sorry, Corey. Dang, this knuckle joint is like melted into this thing. That is crazy. I don't even know how to get this out. It's like become one with the radius arm. Probably gonna have to get a torch to get that out. Man, this radius arm is like in really good shape. So this, it looks kind of crusty, but there's no actual rust down to the metal on this thing aside from this quadrant up here. Otherwise, it's all just on top of the coating for the paint. I'm happy to see this because this is the same paint that I just used on the subframe that just went back in, which leads me to believe that it's going to last many years for me. So, cool. Now we can see if we can get this this wheel bearing off. Sorry for the loud noise for just a minute here. Point this camera down here because what I am doing is definitely more interesting than my face. So dust cover came off, and I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Let's hold that up here. Hear that? That is what a wheel bearing should not sound like. It's not awful. I heard a lot worse, but it does mean that this needs to be replaced. Hopefully I have one. If not, gonna have to get another one. Cotter pin. There we go. That's out. Now we get to see if this bolt comes off easy. Super duper. Eventually I'm gonna find one that fits here. Good Lord, no wonder that was bad. You guys, this is one of the main reasons that you need to look at your parts. That didn't sound right. What I mean to say is one of the main reasons that you need to check your wheel bearings. This is literally hand tight on here. This is not, I haven't loosened this at all. That's pretty crazy. And that's one of the reasons the cotter pin's so important as well, because it keeps your stuff from coming off like this. Dang, that's really on there. To the person who asked me what you should check on the car before you turn it on and drive it again, wheel bearings. I don't remember if I said it or not, but definitely wheel bearings. All I need is a socket that fits. That's so hard. There we go. That really should not be that hard to get off. Quite concerning. William asked if I've ever tried the horns from 7 Mini Parts. I have not. I actually was not aware that they sold horns. Let's turn this way. Now, how is there still brake fluid in here? Now, if you ever spill brake fluid on the back of this stuff, it's always important to go ahead and clean it up at that time, because brake fluid will eat through paint like it's nothing. Can you guys see that? Yeah. Hopefully this isn't too boring for you guys. Just some stuff I needed to get done on the car, so I figured why not do it when you guys can see it. Good Lord. Yeah, that's fucked up. Just going the wrong direction. I forgot that on this other side here, it's actually lefty tighty, righty loosey. Well, that's unusual. So, took this off. The whole bearing, everything, all came off together. And that's really unusual. This stuff doesn't just come off like this. So normally you have to get a bearing puller, pull the bearing. Will you do bearings on the other side as well? Yes. So I probably will replace them in a set. Um, Generally speaking, I like to do them at the same time just because, well, then I know if I've done it once, both of them got done. It's probably not totally necessary, but just makes me feel better. Man, this sucker's in there. There we go. So, dust cover came off, and it's actually in pretty good shape. They come in the kit though, so there's no reason I need to keep that. Then you have your actual wheel bearing, and the later model wheel bearings for the rear have a built-in spacer on them. So that's what the side on your left side is. And then you have your actual bearing here. And honestly, this is spinning pretty smooth. The one on the front is also spinning pretty smooth, but there's a little bit of play in it, which isn't ideal. So, trash. Now, another thing that has to get replaced at the same time is the bearing races. So let's pull this here. This part I can't really do without making a ton of noise. So I'm gonna wipe away some of this grease, and then I'm gonna mute myself temporarily and bang these suckers out of here. All right. Now let's mute. Where is that mute button? Here maybe? Yep. All right. So it looks like I had a few messages from you guys while I was doing that. Corey says, all right, so I'm going to go back and read through some of this stuff before I get into the other stuff. Do you replace bearings on a schedule or as needed? Um, as needed. There's no specific schedule, but I like to check them probably once a year. Unless I've driven really, really hard somewhere, then I'll check them after that. So, to answer that question, when in doubt, get a bigger hammer. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes things just need a sledgehammer. You never know. Kevin says, just wanted to say hi from Australia. Really like your info. As a novice, I find it easy to follow. Just got myself a 73 Leyland Mini. Needs work, but nothing is more fun. Kevin. Well, thank you for the kind words. I am glad that you find my information helpful. And I hope that I'm not like unbearable or anything like that. Um, but yeah, let me just put this away here. Oops. If you ever have any questions, Kevin, feel free to ask. And obviously, I'm doing a Q&A right now. If you have anything you want me to answer, be happy to do that. Now with your bearings, I probably shouldn't have thrown that away yet because I can show you guys something here. Now each side of your bearings have something called a bearing race, and that's what I was hammering out of my hub. So this is tapered, and you have your bearing, sits down in there, and your bearing is actually what spins on that race. Obviously it doesn't do this, but it spins. Now when you get a new set of wheel bearings, you need to replace these as well. If you don't, you're going to just run into the same issues with your wheel bearings failing again, because shit breaks, yo. One thing I will recommend is keeping one of the old bearing races, because when it comes time to hammer them back down into your hub, can't really get a good shot. When it comes time to hammering these back down in here, you can use a socket if you've got one that big, but the easiest thing to do is to hammer in with the old bearing race. So you set your new one in like that, new one in, and then you set a second one on top of it, hammer that one gets damaged while your one that's brand new is perfect and unharmed. Clean this up here. There we have it, hub number 2. I might actually have some wheel bearings. That is a front wheel bearing. Bummer. I was really hoping I had one of those laying around. William says, ever consider getting white walls and hubcap wheels? Not really for me, I have to say. Although thinking about it now, I've never really considered it, but now that you've asked me, I've just started kind of imagining what that looked like. And it might actually look kind of cool on my car with the blue car, the white stripes and white roof. It'd probably match, but man, that would be such a pain to keep clean all the time. Any other questions pop up there? All right. So I think I'm going to probably start winding this down. Do you guys have any other questions that you want to ask me before before I hit the road? If I hit the road, I mean go inside and take a shower and fall asleep. Nothing. Not a single question. William says, do you know if it's possible to get Euro-style plates? So, where did you say you were at? Are you in the U.S.? Um, um, I ask because some states allow you to put Euro plates on your car with no problem. California probably is not one of those, I have to say. But I would double check with the local laws. I just know that California can be a little strict when it comes to rules. But I run a Euro plate on the front of my car. There's places online that'll press you one that you can pick any country, you can pick whatever the words you want on it, and just mount it right on the front of the car. Yeah, check this out. Hang on just a sec. Oh. So, like this one, Bad Wolf, my wife got me this. She bought it online somewhere, not sure where, and it doesn't say on it anywhere, but it was just pressed to order. So, there's definitely places. Just Google Euro style, custom Euro plate. They're probably like 70 or 80 bucks. Might even be able to find them cheaper than that, actually. But cool. Thank you so much for joining. And that's it for the live stream. Have a wonderful day, everybody.